Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Don't Tell Me How to Ban. My name is Josh Albrecht. With me, as always, is my good friend, John Taylor. John, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. Interesting little week in the old Wisconsin sports world.
You know, it's kind of crazy because, especially being in this business, but just being a sports fan in general, this is supposed to be the slow season, right? This is supposed to be where you're in the desert. It's dry, and you're just having mirages of beautiful, wet, juicy stories in the sports world, and usually we don't have them. And this year, it's been all about it. Every time it's been like, oh, we got nothing to talk about except for college basketball, and it's way too early to worry about college basketball. Boom, things keep happening. And the Packers, who took a few days off of making news, then all of a sudden make tons of news this week when Rich Bisaccia steps down. And I think that's important, John, because he was not released. He was not asked to move on. He stepped down from the position. Obviously, I had said they need to get rid of Bisaccia. I mean, we talked about that during the season. I was like, they got to move on. And a lot of people were texting me or tweeting at me when the news came out saying, well, there you go. You happy? And I was like, yes, I'm not throwing a party. I'm relieved. And the reason why is because, and I talked about it this week on the morning show, but this was the first step, John, in my mind, of finding out who's really at fault for what's happening with the special teams. I don't think that Rich Bisaccia by himself was the issue with special teams. I think that it goes way deeper than that. And that's why the special teams was bad before Rich Bisaccia got here. But as long as Rich Bisaccia was still in that position, we never would get the answer. It would just keep being Rich Bisaccia. And that's why, unfortunately, it had to end up being this way. I'm just surprised with the timing and how it all came together. What were your thoughts when you saw the news?
Yeah. Initially, I thought, okay, they must have decided they wanted to move in a different direction. I think you learn he's stepping down. I go, okay, how much of that is true? And I'll talk about that in a second. And then you find out that our assistant special teams coordinator got plucked by the Browns. So now all of a sudden there's really nobody behind Rich. Is Rich, my immediate thought was, is Rich not really into the idea of assembling another special team staff to give this another go? You know, there was whispers that he was going to retire after last year, and he got the title of assistant head coach and probably got a little pay bump to stick around. And I do wonder if maybe this late into the offseason, I'll just say it. It is really bad timing. I can't celebrate this Rich Bisaccia firing like maybe I would want to, because there's nobody left. There is not a single worthwhile special teams candidate available who's coordinated special teams in the NFL. It's slim pickings. There is maybe, I think one guy, I forget his name. It's like Marquise Williams. Maybe that's who it is. Let me, I can fact check that super fast.
Yeah, when you're looking that up, I'm going to ask the question of the same way that the Browns came and plucked away our assistant special teams coordinator guy. Couldn't we go and also try to give an assistant special teams coordinator on another team and promote them to our special teams coach? We can still do that, right? It's not like,
yeah, the problem is they're not good candidates. It's a lot of people who are it's a lot of assistant special teams coordinators. The impression I get are a lot of people who've got that role for the first time. Like, there's been a massive turnover, and the Packers are sitting on the sidelines waiting to be asked for a dance, and there's nobody dancing anymore. Like, that's like the overall impression I get. I was correct. It's Marquise Williams. He most recently served with the Atlanta Falcons. The interesting thing is he did not get released. Kevin Stefanski did not choose to keep him on board. And I think that's like an important distinction. Everyone else who's available or backslid to an assistant role has been let go recently. Or, their play did not stack up. There was another candidate. I don't remember who it was. It just, you look at the numbers and it's terrible. I think it was the special teams coordinator for the Titans. His name's escaping me right now. So I apologize to the listeners, but he was a special teams coordinator 2 years ago. He didn't even make it a full year before they let him go. Like, that's how bad it was. So it's like, you're not getting a top candidate.
Yeah.
I don't even know if there's a guy on the market who can give you what Rich Bisaccia gave you. I think there's maybe some interesting things where you talk about, like, maybe there's a guy from college that you can poach, and maybe this is their first crack at an NFL team. But to your point, I think it was time. I think Rich maybe tried to leverage for some more money, and they said, okay, go ahead and go. Especially, like I said, with them needing to rehaul this staff anyways. But the timing does not feel good. I don't feel great that, we're talking about the combine is just around the corner. Like, we are the odd man out of whatever this coaching search is. So,
well, I looked at it kind of two ways, John. I looked at it first in the way that you're saying, yeah, timing, that's the on the pro and con list. That's definitely the con. And there's a lot of questions that come with that, right? Of why, what changed in the last 2 weeks, a month, whatever it is, that now Rich Bisaccia went, you know what, I'm hanging it up. Because if it was a situation to where he was thinking about what was best for the organization and trying to, leave it better than you got it type of mentality, he had to have known that, like, he's been in the league forever. He had to have known the situation he was putting the Packers in when making this decision. So that makes you think that something, to your point, something did happen. There was something behind closed doors at 1265 that goes, yeah, either he wanted more money, they wanted to retool, and he wasn't on board with that, something along those lines. Now, that being said, on the other side, the pro argument, I don't know that whoever you bring in this year, whether it be a great special teams coordinator or a new, fresh, minty special teams coordinator, you're still gonna. It's a terrible spot for that person, because I don't think that in 1 year, now that, like, Rich Bisaccia is gone, magically the special teams is going to get better. I don't care who's in there. Like, I'm not expecting that. I think that this has been a problem within the organization for years, over multiple special teams coaches, and just throwing another one in there isn't going to fix it. I think you just needed to get Bisaccia out of the way. And now if you have another new guy in there, right, and he doesn't do well, you're going to go, well, okay, but it can't be him, because we thought it was Rich, and we thought before Rich it was Mo Drayton, before him it was Mike Pettin, and you keep going and going and going. And so that's where I stop and I go, someone is just going to be, the sacrificial lamb here of whoever is going to be in charge of special teams. And I think it's going to come out that the real reason is that the three-headed monster that's running the Packers organization just has never put enough care or effort into special teams. I don't think that Goody has put enough effort into drafting and signing players specifically for special teams. I think he's drafting for offense, defense, and if you can also do special teams, great. And we've literally heard Matt LaFleur say, yeah, I don't really care about, like, I don't talk to kickers. Like, he literally said, I don't talk to kickers. Like, he doesn't worry about that. He worries about the offense. That's a problem. Like, when these are the messages you're getting from the people that are making the decisions within the organization, I'm not surprised that the special teams was a problem. I just think that the spotlight wasn't going to be on Goody, LaFleur, Ball until Bisaccia was gone. So I don't know who they're going to put in. I'm sure people are going to go, wow, is this a downgrade? And I'm going to sit here being like, yeah, it doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. Now is when we get to see the true reasons. Now we're going to be able to analyze, well, who has Goody really put in and went and got, whether it be free agent or in the draft, to take care of special teams. And I think all those things are going to be highlighted next season.
Yeah, I do want to say, and I don't want to, I mean, he stepped down, so it's not like he let go. So I don't really feel like I'm like kicking a guy while he's down, but it's like, Rich does have to eat some failures. I feel like
absolutely.
I'm a big proponent of the Packers don't care about special teams. So I don't really care. It's hard. It's hard to watch them lose games when it's like kicks, but they care about kicks and they care about punt coverage. And between Daniel Whelan and, for by and large, McManus, up until it was very clear he was playing injured last year. That's the stuff they care about. Like, they don't care about returns. Otherwise, they wouldn't have Romeo Dobbs and Savion Williams as the only options for punters. They don't care about kick returning. Otherwise, they would have put Keyshawn Nixon back there. To Rich's faults, I will say, like, people are like, he found Keyshawn Nixon. No, he didn't. They just didn't have a better answer. But that's
not Rich Bisaccia's fault.
He's the assistant. He's the assistant head coach. Like, if he really wanted to, drop his metaphorical, what's on the table and say, like, we need to play Keyshawn Nixon. Like, our kick returns are terrible. We need to get like Josh Jacobs out there. We need to play our starters. Like, we need Elton Jenkins on the line, so we're not getting kicks. It's like you could pound that table more. You know what I mean? Like,
but I'm saying, John, what I'm saying is that he still had to make the decision with the pieces he had. He had to put the puzzle together. With the pieces
sure, but when you're picking Amari Rodgers, who couldn't hold on to the football over Keyshawn Nixon, that's a Rich Bisaccia problem. I'm saying that's what I'm saying.
Right.
Like, he only has who he has, but he had an all-pro kick returner, and they knew he could return kicks in practice. I'm sure of it. There were reports coming out at the time. Fundamentally, it's like playing starters, putting Josh Jacobs in big moments, but only when they're desperate. Like, these are things that it's like, I don't know if you can prescribe to Rich. I'm very curious if a new special teams person, if organizationally they say, yeah, have more starters on the special teams, we need to just be better at it, or if they do start looking at drafting profiles. But like, the Packers are not interested in drafting like a 5'10" speed guy who can do returns for them. They just never will. They're not interested. They haven't been interested since the 90s. So I just don't know why that would change right now. So I think people are short-sighted in this idea that Rich was holding them back. Like I said, I think there's things Rich could have done a better job of maximizing what he did have at his disposal. But at the end of the day, you can't be mad doing a street race in a 94 Honda and being like, well, why did the Honda lose? It's like, well, that's not what that is. You know what I mean? So, just a poor metaphor on the fly there, but he did the best with what he could, but not.
So it's fine.
Yeah.
No, listen, I'm 100% in agreement with you. And that's why I'm saying, like, as much as I think that, yes, Rich Bisaccia had his faults and things that he had to take responsibility for, but he can still only do what he could do. And it was very evident over his tenure that they were missing pieces and that they don't care. And here was the hardest thing that, that we also discussed during the week. I thought about it and I was like, okay, but still, if I went to Goody and Goody was like, okay, in the draft, I can either focus on fixing special teams or adding a piece to the defensive line. Everyone is saying defensive line. And so as much as we all go fix the special teams, there's still much bigger areas of need that need to come first. And
so they just need to be okay with losing like a fifth or a sixth linebacker to a truly special team specialist, not a linebacker who can play it, not a cornerback who can play it. You know what I mean? It's like, and this is how you fill your rosters, but I think like it's some marginal moves like that where you sacrifice depth on the bench. But I don't know, the way everyone got hurt, I would not be surprised if you're right. If they just roll this same squad out or this same philosophy and say, if our guys weren't injured, these special team flounders and flubs wouldn't feel so bad, So
yeah, they absolutely could. They might. And in the meantime, now we have more question marks about who's going to be the next person in charge of the Packers special teams. What we do know is who's going to fill that gap, that void at third base for the Milwaukee Brewers. I'm going to eat a lot of crow when we come back to Don't Tell Me How to Fan. Stay tuned.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Don't Tell Me How to Fan. That's right. It's me, John, and I'm taking the intro for the first time because Josh has to eat his words, and I just wanted to make sure he had his plate all set up. He had his silverware and a napkin tucked into his collar because the Brewers have made a corresponding move at third base.
Now, what did I say, John? What did I say that was so terrible last time we had an episode?
Well, it's funny you mention it because a buddy of mine messaged me and said, I think this is a precursor to another move, John. To which Josh replied, I don't think another move is coming. And then in italics, that message said, less than 24 hours later, Luis Rengifo is signed to the Milwaukee Brewers. So that is what you're being stoned about. But no, whatever.
No, you're right. Listen. Here's the thing. Okay, and this is part of being a fan, and this is part that I love, and being in radio, like, you get used to this. All right, it's very funny because Gary Sanchez is back on this team, and I'm surprised that more people didn't come at me. I was when Gary Sanchez was on this Brewers team in 2024. I said early, I'm done with the Gary Sanchez experiment, and I got lit up because then after I said that, he started hitting. He had like a walk-off home run, like things were happening, and I just sat back and said, "Good thing that I jumped the gun and said that. Otherwise, he would have sucked." So I can spin it in my own mind of saying, John, if I wouldn't have said that, they'd still be questioning what they're going to do at third.
Mhm.
And as long as I can use that to sleep at night, I'm all good. But let's talk about Luis Rengifo and what you think about this move, and just give us a little bit of info on him.
Yeah. First and foremost, the big piece about him is he has a pretty nice bat. He had a down year last year. It would take me a second to pull up his splits, but I'll just say, like, experientially, like, he's pretty young. He's got years of control. I think he's like 27 or 28. He put up really good numbers offensively in the 23 and 24 season. And he was dealing with a lot of injuries last year.
238, 9 home runs, 43 RBIs, 119 hits last year.
Yeah. So a down year with the injuries, which he seems to have recovered nicely from. I mean, when you look at what the Brewers are looking for, this is the perfect like bounce back candidate. The biggest knock on him is that he public metrics grade him as like a poor defender, especially at third base. But I don't know if you read the like excerpt from a Matt Arnold interview about Renfrijo, but he basically just said that he came in to Cactus League in the spring training and immediately started taking ground balls with Matt Erickson. He's our infield guy. And he said what he's been able to do with a lot of infielders, Matt's work speaks for itself. He was somebody they talked a lot about before requiring Rengifo, having those tools, ingredients, and having Matt Erickson as a part of the evaluation process, saying, "Hey, I've seen this guy. I think he has a chance to be really good here, and we believe in Matt Erickson making these guys better." And sold.
Yep.
I just don't. I don't know how you can look at this development staff with the guys like Caleb Durbin, with the guys like Joey Ortiz, Bryce Terang, a platinum Gold Glove winner, like. They know how to teach defensive fundamentals. It's one of the biggest things we talked about this season last year was that they find guys that they can perform in this system defensively. So they put the clamps on the opposing offense so much that they're forced to play a lot safer and a lot sounder of a baseball game. And most teams just don't have the discipline to do that. And so, I think it's like a nice mix of like his bat is better than what I would have assumed we were going to get from a free agent signing if he can return to form. And I think like defensively, I think there's something there. And I don't think they would have signed this guy. I don't think they would have come out and said everything they did about him profiling as somebody they think they can extract more value out of. But like I said, I'll repeat myself again. Like I trust this Brewers development staff almost everywhere except for hitting. And now that they've got Vogelbach in, I still don't trust it, but that's not the point.
Yeah.
But everything else, that's for another day. But for him specifically, I think it's great. And then, I texted you right away, and you had mentioned kind of like being in the mix, but like with everybody else. But they signed him to a major league contract. Like you look at like Mark Canha, he just signed to a minor league deal. Like it is not uncommon for guys who are maybe going to make the roster, even if they are major league players, they don't get signed to major league contracts, at least not the Brewers. Could he be the next Luke Voit or Vinny Capra? Absolutely. But then you kind of hope that, right? You hope there's a guy that we didn't think might not be ready is ready. I mentioned the thing that I laughed about was I was saying last episode, like specifically the starting third baseman of opening day is not on this team right now. And you said, I don't know if that's true or not. And I said, well, I do. And so here we are, I can
tell you that the starting third baseman for the Brewers is on this team. I can tell you that right now.
That's awesome. I can't wait to eat crow next week about, I think he's here.
When they announced that they cut him. Oh my God.
Yeah. There's no shot they're going to cut him. I think they're going to let him ride, and I think he'll have a lot longer leash than, Vinny Capra and Luke Voit. But
yeah, here's the the beautiful thing about it. It's the situation and the overall picture that the Brewers have painted with this signing, okay? Because it's all upside. That's it. If he doesn't work out, we know that there are guys. We thought that the guys in the bag of prospects, as I call them, we thought one of them might start on opening day, or at the very least make an appearance sometime during the season, regardless of if they signed a free agent or not. So really, this is, in my opinion, either Luis Rengifo's job to lose. Like, he can prove, like, yeah, no, you keep your prospects where they are. You're not going to touch me. I'm killing it, just like I did before last year. Or he doesn't pan out. And then when one of these prospects, I mean, there was a lot of talk about like Cooper Pratt or someone else, if they're ready to go, then you go, hey, thanks. We're going to keep you on the team, but they can move him around. He said he's a player. He's played outfield. He's played short, second, third. So they still have a utility guy in him, but then he doesn't necessarily need to be the everyday third baseman if he's not performing, right? So that's the beauty of it. I don't necessarily look at this move from the Brewers and go, well, there's an opportunity they lose here. I don't. Either he performs and it's a great signing, or he doesn't perform and we bring up one of the prospects, which we knew we were just kind of holding over anyway. It kind of reminds me of on a much smaller scale, the Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love situation. Like, you had Aaron Rodgers, you weren't going to get rid of him. Aaron Rodgers ended up going out and putting up MVP seasons to where, even though we were ready for Jordan Love, you couldn't do it. So if Rengifo goes out there, even if we're ready to bring up a prospect, if he's killing it, okay, sorry, keep that guy in AAA for a while. We're taking advantage of this. Either way, I think that this move ends positively for the Brewers.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think ultimately it's like a really savvy move from Matt Arnold, who's proven to be very savvy. You know, they're smart with their money. They signed like 3 more free agents than they did all of last year, way earlier in the spring training, which I think is great. You know, I still thought like Paredes would have been like a nice trade target. He's still, you know, and the beautiful thing, what I think is so savvy about this is you bring him in, hopefully it works out. If he doesn't, you platoon him with a younger guy and you see what happens. And if that doesn't work out, you still have the same cabinet of prospects to go make a splashier move at third baseman. Guys get moved all around. You know, there was a lot of reports last year when people were talking about like Eugenio Suarez before he got traded from the Diamondbacks, us being like, Matt Arnold came out and said, like, the cash isn't the issue. Like, it's just this year. It's like, it's not that serious. Like, if we want to go make this move, we could go make this move. The choice is, do we want to? And I think the Brewers will find themselves in this situation again. You know, there's going to be guys on the move. Like, if for some reason a platoon with him but I truly believe like all Luis Rengifo needs to do right now is Rengifo. Sorry. I threw an extra F in there.
No, it's okay. I've been calling him like Lou Ferrigno in my head for like
same, which is not okay. So I'm trying not to do that.
It's a problem, but we'll get there.
It does read like it, which is the point. My actual point is that all he has to be is Caleb Durbin offensively.
That was the bar, right?
Low bar. That's what I'm saying. This is like he doesn't need to be an absolute stud at third base. He just needs to clear the rookie of the year not winning player that was Caleb Durbin. It seems like it shouldn't be that hard. He's like offensively, I think he's going to provide more if he's truly healthy. And I think defensively, as long as he puts in the time and effort to get better in the way that I think the Brewers can, like all he has to be is Caleb Durbin. He's not replacing Willy Adames. He's not replacing, you know, he wasn't ever a Brewer, but it's not like he's trying to replace Pete Alonso. You know what I mean? It's not like this Herculean task. You're just trying to replace Caleb Durbin, officially listed as 5'6.5" Caleb Durbin. You know, he's even shorter officially, thanks to the Red Sox measuring him. But so not a lot to measure up to. I think it's doable. And if not, like I said, like we have the same treasure trove of prospects I had mentioned, thinking that like there was plenty of man. We have so many pitchers that like we could turn them for almost maybe not anybody, but anybody the Brewers are interested in, they have the assets to acquire them all the way up until the trade deadline. So I love it. I love the pickup. I love the flexibility it provides, and like really what I like is that it just cements that question pretty quickly. Because
So
I didn't want another spring training where we're going, who's playing third? What's the
right,
plan here?
right.
Yeah.
So now that we know who's at third, are there any question marks in the lineup? Are we set? Is everyone set? Are we satisfied with who's playing what positions on this team? I've still heard talks about Garrett Mitchell, and I'm like, oh boy, yeah, that's right, Garrett Mitchell. We're still doing that thing.
Yeah. Well, he was in an interview today or, this week talking about how he is well aware he needs to play a lot more cautiously. And I do wonder, does that translate to less power, less production? Like unfortunately, he's getting to the point where he's an injury risk. And, the amount of potential, which he's a big bat. Like if he could stay healthy, he would be a huge boon to this offense. Like it would get really exciting really quickly about how we can keep Yelly at DH. You put Churio in left, you put him in center, you keep Sal in right. It's like all of a sudden, but at the end of the day, the biggest black hole on this entire lineup, top to bottom, it's just always going to be Joey Ortiz. The dude's swing decisions are terrible. He's great on defense, and I think that's awesome, but man, it's bad. And he needs to get better quick, fast, and in a hurry. But it's another issue. I don't know. They can live with putting him on at the 8th or 9th seed, or 8 or 9th spot in the rotation and try to, it's almost time to set up the table that way. But they've shown that even though Pat Murphy hates it, he'll put up with it. And then you never know. Maybe Jet gets some time there. Maybe they do move Bryce, but signing Luis keeps Sal in right. It keeps Bryce at second. It's like this move solidifies so many things that you can kind of just live with Joey Ortiz and let it all come out in the wash once the season starts.
And again, I will keep going back to, if he doesn't pan out, you have the bag of prospects. Yep. You live with Joey Ortiz until you're ready to not live with Joey Ortiz. And that's a nice luxury to be able to be the one that makes that decision. You said 8 or 9 seed, and that had me thinking it is almost time for March Madness. And it is time for us to start talking about a little bit of basketball. I thought we could quickly talk about kind of where we are seeing Badgers, but also we got to talk about the Bucks as well. They are about to be done with their the All-Star break. They're going to be playing games again. Are we tanking? I feel like it's the shortest tank in the history of tanking. So we're going to talk about that. Of course, a million times over, Giannis saying things to different people. And even though the trade deadline's passed, that's still a hot topic. We're going to discuss all of that with the Bucks as well, because even though I know last week, John, I told you I need help on how to fan, and you did, but it just seems like every week it's like I got to keep going back to therapy. I got to keep coming back because things are changing, and it has me questioning things all over again. So we will get into some basketball here in the state of Wisconsin when we come back on Don't Tell Me How to Fan. Stay tuned. Welcome back, everyone, to Don't Tell Me How to Fan. I'm Josh Albrecht. That's John Taylor. We've talked about the Packers and Rich Bisaccia. We've talked about the Brewers and Luis Rengifo. And now it's time to talk about some basketball. It's still February. We're not to March yet. But there is some exciting things happening in the world of college basketball. And then also some fun things to talk about with the Bucks right now, because no matter how much I try to solidify my opinions, thoughts, feelings, more things pop up and it creates more question marks. So let's start with the world of college basketball, John. The Wisconsin Badgers in the state are more than likely the only team that's going to be in the March Madness tournament. Now, the Badgers are also the only team that has beaten 3 top 10 ranked teams this season. It was the win that they had against Michigan State, where they crushed them at home in Madison, that got them back into the top 25. And they were a ranked team. And you're going, all right, let's go. Then they go and they lay an absolute egg against Ohio State. I mean, they were awful in that game. And it has made me question everything about what to expect with this Badgers team, and how much I'm truly going to be able to enjoy some team in the state of Wisconsin in the tournament. Because, like I said, it's always nice. I didn't go to Wisconsin. I didn't go to Marquette. I know that there are these competing fan bases that go, I won't cheer for Marquette. I won't cheer for Wisconsin. I just want to see the state of Wisconsin represented in the tournament. This year, Marquette's not making it. So it's just going to be Wisconsin. They were the talk of the town after that Michigan State win. And it is just funny how quickly one loss can kind of deflate all of that. I'm not saying that now people are worried again, but it seemed like even after that win, the best that was going to happen was them maybe being a 6 seed. Projection already had them at like a 7. If they don't really put a few more wins together here, I mean, they could be an 8 or 9, which, gets you even more into that conversation of, boy, are the Badgers going to be able to get out of the first weekend, aka making it to the Sweet 16? I am very interested to see what happens. I think the one difference, John, that I'll tell you about with the Badgers this year, and I mean, watching past Badger teams, but they play slow. They use the clock and they drive the lane and they make the 2. This team has some great guards in Blackwell and Boyd, and they shoot the 3. And when they're on, they beat Michigan State by 20. And when they're off, they lose to Ohio State by 20. So, the potential is there. Now it's just finding out in the 4 or 5 games that's going to take to win the whole damn thing. Can they keep it together? Can they stay hot? Because it doesn't really seem, especially in the tournament, like they have a backup plan to where if their 3-point shooting is cold, that they can turn to. And that's going to be a big problem.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, this has been the Badgers' MO for as long as the Badgers have been, like, since the Bo Ryan days. I feel like they're good at, they've been better about catching some like smaller guards who can put up threes, but when they play teams that can like really run them out of the gym, they get ran out real bad and real quickly. They lose to like the UF Central Coast teams of yesteryear. So I will say, living on the West Coast, I don't get a ton of Badgers basketball talk. It doesn't really come across my desk, as it were.
Sure.
But I know there was a huge I caught a bunch of those 2 big upsets, and how big of a deal it was for the Badgers to win those games. And I did hear that, like you had mentioned, that they've kind of fallen back down to earth. So, the Big Ten tournament, like just getting in the mix, and all of this is it's so hard to tell. I feel like regular season basketball compared to the tournament, everything gets so heightened and so under a microscope that it has to concern you when your team is as volatile offensively as it seems like the Badgers are.
Yeah,
that's my like low level layman's assessment of the Badgers at present.
Well, and it's pretty spot on, honestly. Like, we've seen that this Badgers team can really put out some firepower. We've also seen them straight up struggle to show that. And so it's really going to be just kind of a crapshoot of which team shows up. If it's the right team, this Badgers program is going to be a lot of fun to watch. If not, it's going to be another early exit and really frustrating for the state of Wisconsin when it comes to college basketball. All right, let's go to the professional ranks. First of All-Star weekend happened last weekend. My favorite part was definitely just Giannis clowning Shams. That was awesome. Huge fan of that. Now, there were more interviews and conversations and blah, blah, blah. And there was an interview with Malika Andrews that came out that, Giannis in front of a camera said, once you've had a juicy, good steak, you want that steak again. And I want to win another championship. And I want it to be in Milwaukee. But if it can't be in Milwaukee, then essentially he knows he has to move on.
Oh, so you're telling me Giannis had another interview where he said the exact same thing he's been saying for the last 5 years?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This is exactly Trevor Thomas, who I do the morning show with weekdays on Inside Wisconsin Sports, Trevor and Josh, was like, see, this is different because this is the first time I heard it from Giannis. And I was like, okay, but Giannis has been saying this to the local reporters here forever. He loves Milwaukee. He's also super competitive. And if those two things don't line up, he will move on. It will just suck. He will hate it. He doesn't want to do that. That is not his goal. He's not one of these players that wants to move somewhere else because they have a firepower team already put together. He doesn't want to just join the Knicks to join the Knicks. He doesn't want to just play in LA because the weather's warmer. He loves Milwaukee. He wants to be in Milwaukee, but he needs to win. That has always been the message. It hasn't changed. I'm just praying that now that people have him on camera saying it, that they will listen. We can drop it and just wait. I know the national media won't, but at least locally, I hope we can just wait.
Yeah. It sounds like he's excited to come back. It seems like, I mean, there's so many memes of him watching like Cam Thomas hit that like 3-point dagger, and he's got that like demon face look again. Like he seems excited and ready to go. Who would have thought like Usman Jang and Cam Thomas would reignite Giannis's passion for basketball here in Milwaukee, but it looks like it might be the case. I mean, we can talk about them in a little bit, but just, I don't know. I feel like we had a very checked out Giannis leading into the All-Star break. And I did not feel super confident, not leading to the All-Star, I'm sorry, the trade deadline and the All-Star game. He seemed to be very different. Obviously winning 5 of the last 6 makes things feel a lot better.
Winning makes everything.
Yeah, it sure does. But the way they were doing it, I think they're excited. Like, I think they have, I'll just talk about it. I think they found gold in Usman Jang. Like, yes, he's tall and he's kind of a big 3, but he's really athletic. And I think like this, you want to talk about like value stuff. John Horst, when you talk about like all the things you like or don't like, his ability to draft, not ability to draft. All I know is we traded Amir Coffey and Cole Anthony for Usman Jang and Cam Thomas. And that felt like an upgrade, and it's feeling like an upgrade. And so, if he's excited, I'm excited. I guess we could dive into the last like 6 minutes of the pod talking about your therapy session about whether or not we're tanking and how we feel about it. But
we're not. That's the thing. Is the tank's over. Long live the tank. It was here for 6 days. Like it literally felt like we officially said, hey, we're tanking. And it was like for a span, maybe 5 or 6 basketball games, like legitimately in the amount of time where the Bucks were supposed to be tanking. I think they played like 6 basketball games and they lost 2. Like they're terrible at tanking. Seriously, like awful. And if you're curious what good tanking looks like, look to the rest of the East. Like there are plenty of teams that are tanking successfully. The Bucks have not been able to do it. The reason why that brings me back to being confused is I understood the idea of getting a really good draft pick in this super stacked draft and having that be the juice that we're squeezing to keep Giannis here, right? That's the goal. Keep Giannis here, have him sign the Supermax, do it. If we finish and we're the 10th to 15th pick in the draft, okay, now we're not getting one of those all-star franchise-changing picks that exist in this draft. So now I'm looking at these guys that you just mentioned, and I'm going, are these guys enough? Are these guys the guys that are going to make Giannis go, no, give me the pen. I'm signing the Supermax? I don't think so. Now, granted, they can slash some more money during the offseason and maybe go and get another veteran player, right? But that's what has me all sorts of confused here at this point, going to the All-Star break.
Yeah, it's going to continue to be the same conversation. So, maybe therapy might have to stop for a little while. It just is. They are not. If Giannis wants to come back and they can make a serious push for the play-in tournament. And if Giannis is bought in and excited about it, I think this is where the mind frame of us fans needs to change. And I'm not telling anyone how to fan. I'm just encouraging you to think about this idea that potentially if Giannis feels good, the players are playing better, the team looks right, they seem to be actually addressing some of the concerns and they're producing wins. What I've always said, Giannis in the playoffs, if he's healthy, he could be a live dog in any series, so you remove the expectations. If they can climb their way into the play-in tournament and find their way into the playoffs, are you telling me a Detroit Pistons team wants to face Giannis, like I like those odds, as stupid as that sounds. Like, and I know I'm a homer and I'm a huge fan. This is not a NBA podcast, so I can say stuff like that. But like the Bucks in this current iteration, if they can really gel and be cohesive, and Ryan Rollins and KPJ and Cam Thomas microwave scores, and Giannis comes back and he's facilitating, like you could make some noise in the playoffs. And if you don't need to do it, you just need Giannis to be excited about doing it. And then you take that pick that should have been higher, but because he didn't take and he's excited, you take that pick and several other picks, you bring in another superstar, and then all of a sudden you start getting him thinking about the Supermax more, right? That's the path forward. And I watched a lot of bad Bucks basketball for the last 2 months, and guess what? Don't want to do it anymore, even if it is a tank. I'm not interested. Unless if Giannis is on the team, I don't want to watch losing happen, period. So that's kind of where I stand on the whole thing.
I agree. Also, I want Giannis on the team no matter what. But 100%, I'm with you. I love that. I love that path. I love that strategy. Let's see if it pans out. You know, it honestly, I feel like we're still in this gray area of where this team's at, where their chances are at. But they definitely ended on high notes to going into the All-Star break, and hopefully they can carry some of that success forward post All-Star break, especially with Giannis coming back. You know, the reports were he was almost going to be back in time for the All-Star break, so I don't expect him to be out for another month. You know, he should be here for a little bit of down the stretch of the season.
Mm-hmm. My hot take: he might play Friday, or he might have played yesterday.
Whoa,
a little radio magic. Yeah, I think there's a world where he said it in the All-Star interviews, like, I just need to check the boxes. I feel 100% ready to go. So he's had all week to check those boxes. So
it's true. And he's got candies now. He's got gummies.
He's got gummies. And Steph was talking about it. Amazing free promo for that. You know?
Yeah, he said that they were delicious. And come on.
Real quick, before we end, thoughts on the All-Star game?
I thought it was okay.
Interesting. I really liked it. I found myself being pretty invested. I think it's a creative solution. I think the quarters could be shorter, and I don't think they need 8 guys I think there's some fine tuning, but I think there's something here. I think
there's something. I'd like to see if now they make the next move to improve it.
Yeah.
Do they improve it from here?
Yeah. Because I think like the original NBA Cup, we went, what is this? And then we saw it and was like, there's something here. And I think now it's something to look forward to. Like, we care about basketball in November. And I can't remember the last time.
But you know why we care about that? Because the players care. The players bought into the cup.
And that's how you got to figure out how to break up if you're going to keep doing 3 teams, you just got to figure out how to get everyone invested. And obviously, like, nationality and pride of, especially with the Olympics going on, it makes perfect sense. I don't know about Nick Wright's pitch for how you break up, but I will say, there's probably some fun ways to get them excited. So all in all, I thought it was a fun weekend. Shout out to Dame for winning the 3-point contest on a hobbled leg. You can still shoot. And the city here in Portland was very excited about that. That's for sure.
Shoot. That was great for him. Seeing him messing around with Giannis and having fun was good. And now let's just get back to winning. Winning in Wisconsin is what we're looking for. That's what makes us happy at the end of the day. That's what's most important when it comes to our sports teams, is winning. We appreciate you joining us here for this week's episode of Do Not Tell Me How to Fan. I'm Josh. That's John. We will see you next time, because we are not done yet.
Bye-bye.